Bobby Hackett, a guest over here on the right side of the dial. Bobby, an artist of cornet and a craftsman of the brasses, fine musician, lover of high fidelity and component parts. Welcome.
Thank you, Leigh.
It's very nice to have you back in the Twin Cities, and if you would you take a long look backward over your shoulder? Mine, I don't think, extends in that direction quite as far. What I'm referring to actually is, say, describe a typical night with Glenn Miller and his bunch of guys.
Well, you mean starting on the job itself?
Oh, any way you want to describe it.
Well, I suppose you'd get there about an hour ahead and clean up, shave, put on the uniform, go and set up and just play all that gorgeous music.
He certainly had a distinctive style, didn't he?
He sure did. Yes, indeed.
Well, now you also played in another competing band of that era, Glenn Gray and his Casa Loma organization. Do you still have stock in that group, or did they sell it off?
They sold it off.
They did. Actually, this was a corporation, wasn't it? The Glenn Gray Group.
Well, it was before I came on the scene. I joined Glenn Gray around 44 or something like that. I'm very bad at dates because I don't believe in looking back.
Well, I don't blame you. I know that you're contemporary in every sense of the word, but once again, just touching on Glenn Miller's band, who played beside you in the brass section there that, inspired you?
Well, I think I won't want to say who's better than anybody else because they were all very wonderful trumpet players. The first one that comes to my mind is Mick McMickle. He was the best first trumpet player that we had, I think. Then we had Billy May, who I'm sure you've heard of.
Yes, I have.
Let me think. Johnny Best was a great all-around trumpet player. And the other chair was that was the one that would move around. We'd have different guys at different times. And when we had a guy that Glenn liked, I would be a guitar player.
And that made you very functional. But actually, you're a very fine guitarist, from what I understand.
Well, I'm a little rusty. I haven't played since Glenn broke up the band.
Bobby, what was the spirit of that organization as you look back? And I hate to have you looking back like this, but it was such a remarkable orchestra.
Well, it's very pleasant to look back to, that band, particularly.
What kind of spirit out and among the guys?
Well, the morale was always very high because there was a lot of money around.
That's
which
good.
Helps.
Uh-huh.
It was just a great band, I think. I think it was probably the greatest band there ever was.
Actually, it seems to me that it had a spirit comparable to a good ball team, football or baseball.
Well, you're quite right, because Glenn Miller was that type of a guy. He was, you'd be inspired working for him. You'd always try to please him because he was such a fine man.
What were some of Glenn Miller's qualities?
Well, I think he had about every good quality that there was. As a person, he was a very respectable musician, highly talented, and extremely capable.
How about the Glenn Gray band in contrast? This was an outstanding organization, too. What was really the difference in between these bands?
Well, Glenn
Not
Gray,
so much in style, but in feeling.
Well, Glenn Gray is a terrific guy. Everybody loves him, but he wasn't or didn't profess to be the musician that Glenn Miller was. He was just a great guy, but he was kind of easygoing, and the band was always good, but Glenn Miller's band was better, I'm afraid.
It had a remarkable trademark and style. And once again, just to refresh my viewpoint, and maybe some of those people out there that danced to Glenn Miller at, say, the Glen Island Casino or the Prom or University of Colorado, what made that style?
Well, Glenn Miller, really.
He was the voice of the band.
Well, he was the brains of the whole operation, shall we say. He had arrangers writing for him, but he would guide them in the first place and then let them go on their own. But, for instance, when they turned in an arrangement, he'd be liable to edit it and improve it here and there. And the improvement, the change that he made would always be the thing that the people liked most.
What was one of your favorite arrangements in the book, or were they all?
Well, there were so many good ones. We had Bill Finnegan writing, Billy May, Jerry Gray, and
what do you think booted the band? What number really, had everybody sort of electrified?
In the mood, I suppose.
This was the flag waver.
Well, we had a lot of flag wavers, but In the Mood was the strongest, the most popular number we had, I think.
Bobby Hackett, thanks very much for these views, and I hope that I haven't strained your neck by asking you to look backward and view the Miller and the Glenn Gray bands. Thanks very much.
Pleasant memories. Thank you, Leigh.
Visiting fireman in town. And here's a man who has haunted the East 50s, Eddie Condon's place, Mason Street East, and of course some of the best of the studios, whose name has been just about synonymous with every good band, from network and studio variety to big name, one-night stand, long-range engagement. Bobby Hackett. Bobby is currently appearing at the Padded Cell, where he finds a nice, intimate atmosphere for a happy little group, 4 strong men. By the way, Bobby, who's in the group?
Well, we have Dave McKenna at the piano, who I think is just about the greatest piano player I've ever heard.
He's actually a new face within the last 5 or 6 years, isn't he?
Dave is a young kid. He's about 29 years old. To me, that's very young.
Well, I think you speak for the spirit of eternal youth.
But he very outstanding talent. And we have a marvelous bassist by the name of Joe Williams, and probably the best drummer I've ever heard, Jake Hanna. I'm not just saying this because
Jake's a big band drummer who really sparks things along, too.
Well, he can play anyway, and he's very versatile. He was with Marion McPartland's trio for a long time, and I wanted him for a long time, but Marion is a good friend of mine, and I would never make a pass at him. So I left him alone for about 6 months, and finally he got word to me that he wanted to come with us. And, well, we're a very, very happy group. I think it's a marvelous rhythm section.
Well, you say hello to Jake for us over here.
Sure will.
Well, in small groups today, there's all kind of music being played. Bobby, what do you like to play, and what do you think people like to hear?
I think they like to hear everything. We don't like to specialize in any one thing. We play every kind of music that there is. I think we're able to play ballads, slow, pretty tunes, swing. Mainly we try to swing. We're a little bit allergic to being called Dixieland.
Well, actually,
But we do have a small repertoire of Dixieland tunes that we play, and like anything, I think it's how you play them that counts.
Well, I hope that isn't an allergy to the tradition, but actually Dixieland is a kind of misnomer, isn't it, in a way?
Well, it's a false word in the first place. I mean, what is Dixieland? Some people have the idea that it's, for instance, the way Pee Wee Hunt's band would play, or Phil Napoleon, Muggsy Spaniard. There are some good Dixieland bands, and there are some bad ones.
And also, too, it might be a Creole band out of New Orleans many years ago, or it might be Lou Waters out of San Francisco.
Well, actually, it would have to be Nick LaRocca and the original Dixieland Jazz Band.
Absolutely.
To be a real Dixie. Well, a lot of New Orleans bands play that kind of music, and I think they play it better than anybody else.
Yours, of course, is a scope of programming that you like to play, isn't it? And stands, I think, for Hackett's taste in music.
Well, we're liable to play anything. We try to be musically broad-minded, and I think it pays off. I think we reach more people that way. We do a number that's we get quite a kick out of. Do you remember Fats Waller's Jitterbug Waltz?
I certainly do.
Well, we got it swinging.
In what sort of time or tempo?
3/4.
It's
a kind of a jazz waltz, but it seems to come off right.
Bobby, have you been listening to some of they call him the modern waltz king of jazz, Randy Weston, who has written a number of waltzes in his field?
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with it.
Well, he's teamed together with John Hendricks of Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross.
Oh, yeah.
To do all kinds of waltzes and jazz tempo, but nothing like Fats's spirited Jitterbug Waltz.
Well,
Be looking forward to hearing that.
Anything John Hendricks does is all right with me.
Bobby, you're also a specialist in the area of high fidelity and everything connected with it, from speakers to woofers and tweeters, component parts.
I'm hooked on it. I'm a stereo bug.
What kind of microphones would you recommend for anybody who wants to record at home, expensively, that is?
Well, I think I told you before we went on the air, I just picked up a couple of Sony mics, which I think are about as good as mics can get. Not long ago, we were in California. I was out there with Tony Bennett, and we went to a recording session of Duke Ellington's band. And I counted 8 Sonys. That's what made me decide. If Duke likes them, I like them.
That's a pretty fair recommendation, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Well, now, how about the turntable that you play back a record on?
Well, there are so many good ones, I don't know.
What do you have?
I have a Thorens,
Uh-huh. What kind of an arm on it?
a Grado,
Uh-huh.
and a Grado cartridge.
Do you travel this equipment with you?
Oh, no, I have it down to... Paul, we have to think of portability. We fill up the station wagon, and I don't want to take too much room in there.
But this
I
equipment
can-
does travel with you.
Well, I carry the mics, and I have a Tandberg 6 tape recorder, which I think is about the ultimate.
That's out of Copenhagen, isn't it?
Norway.
Norway, that is. Well, thanks very much for some recommendations on component parts for hi-fi and stereo listening. One question here. You make records. Do you think long play records are monsters eating up material that musicians create?
In a way, but on the other hand, it creates a challenge. Well, if I'm in that fix, and I guess many more people are, like we did 12 albums for Capitol of my own, and that eats up 12 tunes apiece. And with Jackie Gleason, we did about 7, that's 16 apiece. So naturally, you don't want to repeat yourself. You can't record the same number, so you have to keep looking.
In other words,
And
it's
it
a
kind of
challenge to look
forces-
for new material.
Yeah, I think it kind of forces people to create, which I think is a good thing.
Good discipline for the musician or the
yes.
artist.
Yeah, can't get in a rut.
Absolutely not. All artists found in a rut no longer have that little label, artist.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Bobby Hackett.
Thank you, Leigh.